Yeah, I got a tattoo on my last cruise, not in port, but on the ship, which in hindsight was kind of crazy. Four other friends also got one while on board, and well, we're all in total agreement about how we feel about it now. Ahoy sailors, my name is Rob, and I'm here to tackle Virgin Voyages one topic at a time. Welcome to OVT. So I've been thinking about getting a fifth tattoo for a long time, and I made the decision to get it done on board Virgin's Valiant Lady on our cruise just a couple of weeks ago. I'd seen an Instagram post about the guest tattoo artist, and one of them really blew me away. Ilaria is from the UK. I was really impressed with her work and figured, this would be my only chance to get her to work on the tattoo that I had really been thinking up for years. So I reached out to her on Instagram and I briefed her on what I wanted to see if it was something that she could draw up in advance, because I knew that this wasn't the type of thing that she'd have time to draw up in between tattoos while on board. She was great at communicating and seemed excited to create the tattoo for me. She asked me a bunch of questions, and within a couple of weeks, she had drawn up a design that I was really thrilled with. I had a few minor requests, and admittedly, I was a little worried that she'd feel as if her artistic integrity was being questioned, but she was great, and she was more than happy to make the modifications. We kept in touch over the weeks running up to the cruise, and that just got me even more excited about getting it done. In the meantime, we were cruising with four other couples, and I mentioned my plans in a group chat. A few of the others were also interested, and they went online to check out both of the guest tattoo artists. And little did I know that my decision had begun to get them seriously considering getting tattoos as well. But before letting you know how things went, while I'm not new to cruising, I am a pretty new YouTuber. So if you'd be willing to hit the subscribe button, that one right over there, I'd be grateful. And maybe that like button as well. Thank you in advance. Let's get back into it. Because you can't book an appointment for a tattoo until you're on board, you'll see a small group of cruisers lined up about a half hour before Squid Ink opens up on embarkation day. Usually that's around 7 p.m., but I think because we left port so late on our sailing, it was 8 o'clock. I showed up 30 minutes before opening, and there was one person ahead of me who had started the line, and after chatting with her for just a few minutes, I looked behind me and I saw that a small line had already gathered. There were about 7 or 8 waiting by the time they opened the doors. So if you need to get tattooed on a very specific time or day, I suggest showing up about 45 minutes early to make sure you're first in line. I finally got to meet Ilaria, and she showed me her updated drawing, and I loved it. The only thing that I asked her to modify was the writing in the banner. It looked a little bit like a font, and I wanted it to look a little bit more traditional, almost like handwritten words, and she was happy to make the change. I chose to get this on the last night of our cruise for a few reasons. First, we had a really port-intensive itinerary on that cruise, and we were going to be rushing back onto the ship most of the days just in time for our dinners, but also because I wanted to avoid a fresh tattoo that couldn't be exposed to the sun or to salt water. Actually, she explained that they used the second skin for aftercare, and the tattoo would be safer on both of those elements, which I didn't know. The last time I got a tattoo, it was just wrapped in saran wrap. So still, I booked it for the last night, and she told me it would take probably about 3 hours, and the cost would be about $1,000. I signed the paperwork. They billed a $50 deposit to my room, and that was that. I was locked in. I think I walked into the tattoo shop about 4 or 5 times that week just to see what was going on and to keep the excitement building. On one of those trips, our friends Jesse and Denise came with me. It was the night of the We Fancy party, and the other tattoo artist, Pietro, had made a comment on Denise's light-up shoes, and that got the conversation started with him. Jesse had a few tattoos, but Denise didn't. They had been talking about getting matching tattoos for years, and specifically something around their favorite video game, Portal 2. They showed Pietro their idea. The three of them all kind of got excited about the drawing that he showed them, and needless to say, they also signed on the dotted line to get their tattoos the very next day. The price was a bit more than it would have been back home, but they really liked his work, and they loved the story that they'd have forever about getting their tattoos on a cruise. But wait, another couple we were traveling with also signed up for tattoos. Becca had gotten a small tattoo on her side on her last Virgin sailing, and she asked Ilaria to draw up something across her ribs. She told her that she was interested in serpents, and Ilaria drew this up by the time her appointment came up. Pretty spectacular. And Justin, he saw some of the flash art in her portfolio and asked if she'd make a few modifications for him. Needless to say, I had a lot more reasons to drop in and watch friends getting tattooed that week. Anyway, back to me. It was time to head down to Squid Ink, so I had a few Swedish fish to give me a little surge of energy. This wasn't my first tattoo. I knew what I was getting into. We reviewed the final design, measured it up to the right size, and signed the paperwork. And off we went. Shaved the arm, placed the stencil. I got to make my favorite joke that was easy as she pulled off the stencil, and then it was time to sit in a chair for 3 hours. If you've gotten a tattoo before, you know exactly how it feels. Although I have to admit, Ilaria had a very light touch, which I appreciated. If you haven't, well, it's mostly random pinches and scratches until you get to the shading. That last half hour wasn't fun, but to her credit, Ilaria checked in on me every few minutes. And finally, after 2 months of build-up and excitement, she was done. She cleaned it up, and I was thrilled with it. It was exactly what I had hoped she would create, if not even more. If you haven't picked up on it yet, the little Easter egg here is the nod to my YouTube channel. Ahoy, sailors. She suggested that I go for dinner and then come back afterwards to clean it again and put the second skin on. So, like my previous tattoos, she wrapped it in plastic wrap. I went for dinner and then dropped back in to finish the process afterwards. It was a great plan, actually, because I had absolutely no issues with the tattoo at all. I pulled the second skin off after 5 days, and it looked great. Of course, the aftercare continues for another couple of weeks, but I love that extra level of care that she showed. All my concerns about choppy C's and messed up line work were a waste of time. It turns out they won't tattoo you if the C's are too rough, which isn't really a worry because those ships have stabilizers and rarely do anything worse than easy rhythmic sways. Jesse and Denise and Becca and Justin, they all felt the same way. It was a great experience. The artists were able to customize the work for them, and they had these lifelong memories of their cruise. Their tattoos all turned out so well, and both Jesse and Justin have talked about traveling to Sardinia and to the UK to get full sleeves done by the tattoo artist. Even I promised to keep in touch with Ilaria to have her cover up an old tattoo I'm ready to get rid of. It's hard to show higher praise than that. Would I recommend it? I think it goes without saying that, yeah, I really would. It's an opportunity to get work done by some of the best tattoo artists in the world. It's something that's going to remind you of your cruise for the rest of your life, and the risk is really low. Actually, the worst story that I had heard was that somebody had booked a tattoo on board and gotten sunburned so badly in port that they had to cancel their sitting. But a bit of common sense, use a little sunscreen, goes a long way. The price will vary, but I think if you use a general rule of about $300 an hour, you'll be close. I got a pretty large tattoo, but I think most people's were in the $300 to $500 range. If you're interested, go and check out their Insta page. It's at squidink.vv. There, they'll announce the guest tattoo artist for all the ships, and this is usually posted around 6 or 8 weeks before the sailings. Regardless, if you're cruising on any Virgin Voyages ship, drop into Squid Ink to see what it's all about. My experience, and I did spend a lot of time in there, is that they were incredibly friendly with everyone who came in to talk to them, and there was never any pressure to commit. Don't be afraid to get a tattoo early on during your cruise. Second skin is incredible, and you won't have to avoid doing any of those cruise things because of your tattoo. And the ability to have them check on the work after a day or two is absolutely priceless. And finally, my concern about needing to get more complex tattoos drawn up in advance, it was totally unfounded. Squid Ink only opens at 5 o'clock every day, so they have lots and lots of downtime to create drawings from scratch. So don't let that be a barrier to getting something special done. Thanks for watching. Leave me a message below and let me know if you would ever consider getting a tattoo on your cruise. And please do hit those like and subscribe buttons. Well, that's all about my tattoo experience on Valiant Lady, and that's my one Virgin topic for today. Do you have any questions or there are any topics that you'd like to hear about? Leave me a message below. And until next time, ahoy, sailor.